The old man, grizzled and gruff, stared at us as we stood in his office. Well, less an office and more an armory inside of an office, the walls lined with dozens of firearms and boxes of ammunition heaped on shelves. I took a close look around the place from my own drone camera and noted how there were several boxes along the shelves full of canned food, wall-mounted boxes full of medical supplies. He was hastily attempting to organize some paperwork on his desk. It was me, piloting a drone. 2 security Praetorians, this human, Reginald and Decathus, the chief science officer for the expedition team. "So, you are aliens?" he asked. "Please be aware for the sake of judicial record this conversation is being recorded on this device here. My name is Thomas James Taffert." He patted a small box on his desk. "Yes, we are," Decathus replied. "How long you been here?" he asked again, scribbling something in his paperwork. "We have been in the star system for 2 months. We have been aware of your planet for 1 month, and have been on the planet's surface for 10 days, I replied through the drone. "We have been dealing with this apocalypse shit for a year now, so that means you have nothing to do with the outbreak," he said, scribbling a note. "We have found the origin point of the virus outbreak, tracing it to a biolab in the Rockies, I think is how you say it," Decathus stated. "Ah, so it's our fault after all then?" he asked, scribbling more. "We have yet to determine the exact cause, but it is a bit more complex than that. We need to get more data from the lab and other outlets to fully piece the puzzle together. But for the moment, a full cure is now fully available. We are already starting to mass produce it," I replied. You people work fast," he said, scribbling more. "We have technology that is several thousand years ahead of yours, and we have been dealing with our own variation of a deadly space plague for those millennia. Because of our effort with that space plague, our medical technology is powerful enough we can— how do I put this?" Decathus said. "They can scan things, then 3D print anything they need like Star Trek, but with medicine," Reggie replied. The old man scribbled in his notepad. "That's useful. You got spaceships, fleets. You probably got a huge empire that spans the galaxy. Looks like more than one species, probably a lot more than that. Distinct cultures judging by demeanor and stance. Very advanced tech. Laser blasters and plasma cannon things. Likely you've abandoned ballistic munitions or had no need for them. You got that armor you wear. Makes you resilient or immune to low-caliber weapons we use. Judging by the fact you aren't showing any symptoms of the outbreak, you aren't affected by the virus or those suits are biohazard safe. Likely both." We were somewhat taken aback by his summary of the situation. "That is very apartment. How did you—" "I've been a career politician for 3 decades before this shit started, buddy. Being in a chain of leadership for a nation like the U.S., especially after the Reformation War, you don't live long in my position without learning how to notice details. Pattern recognition is also a thing with our species. 2 + 2 = 4. About as simple as it gets. Now, your turn to ask questions. I got what I need for now," he said, putting his pencil down. "No question as to how long it will take to find a cure or anything like that?" I asked. "You have a cure. It was right there. I saw you use it on Tommy T virus. As far as I know is airborne. If you can find a way to provide something like an aerosol-based cure for air dispersal, we have an old crop duster that still works. Can use that to distribute the cure in short order," he said. "What is a crop duster?" Decathus asked. Crop duster is a small, highly maneuverable aircraft that carries fertilizer, water, or other agricultural components, such as pesticide, to spray them from the air above crops. We can probably retrofit the plane to carry tanks full of any aerosol and use the planet's air current to spread the cure around a bit better, he said with a shrug. Or something. I don't know. Just spitballing ideas. I'll leave it to you. You came up with that solution how? And how long have you been thinking about it? I asked. Since you walked in the office, basically. That's how we humans work. We encounter a problem. We start thinking about ways we can solve it. Usually based on pulling answers out of our asses or out of thin air. Usually both. And usually our solutions for that problem are based on what we have available. Crop duster. Aerosol-based chemical sprayer. Aerosolized cure for plague. Aliens who can make it. Crop duster. There you go. He replied, again shrugging his shoulders like nothing. Everyone listening to this conversation blinked in surprise. Did they seriously work this fast? And come up with answers that quickly? And the answer was esoteric, but that level of problem-solving in that capacity? Truly incredible. The more we spoke to these humans, the more we wanted them. See, that starts to make sense of how you managed to survive this long, especially against the odds we have so far seen, I remarked. No, we survived by making hard choices, extreme sacrifices, and witnessing the kind of shit that would make even the devil himself weep. I'm going to make something clear before we start. The people here will be happy with your help. We've been through hell, but don't expect a warm welcome anywhere else. We are human, and we have turned killing each other into an art form. We are not a united front. Even at the best of times, our biggest pastime as a species was coming up with new and creative excuses to tear each other a new one. We don't trust anyone, especially not each other, long before any of this shit started. It's kind of why we have so much military hardware and nuclear weapons milling about. That wasn't a zombie plague thing. That was the last 10,000 years of human history thing. Guns have been around for longer than zombies have existed as a concept. Now consider current events. Societal collapse. No laws, no world, no government, no nothing. We went from being reasonably okay to being 7 different kinds of screwed. Now consider the heartbreak. At the best of times, we're emotionally unstable. Now add the zombies. Someone you love not only passes but comes back and tries to tear you apart. You watch as people you know and love get grabbed and ripped apart. The screams haunt you. You hear your child desperately screaming for help, and there's nothing you can do because if you try something, you die too. You have to leave your family and friends behind. You have to make choices that no living creature in the universe ever has to make ever. That kind of shit, it breaks you. Makes you a monster if you weren't one already. Being forced into those kinds of situations, it changes the soul as much as it does the mind. So I'll make my warning clear. We are not a united front. Never have been, never will be. We are slow to trust, easy to anger, paranoid, and will actively look for something to blame to make our problems go away, even if it doesn't make any sense. Some will see this as the wrath of God. Others will see it as a blessing from God. Some will see your arrival and choose to blame you for the loss of the few they loved. Be prepared for that, he said calmly. We just shared glances of concern with each other. I started to hear background chatter as the diplomats started gabbling at each other. I understand, I said. What could I say to this? I was a scientist, not a diplomat. So, that brings us back to present circumstances. Nothing in this universe is for free. What do you want from us? He asked blankly. Well, you basically. We have taken a look at the technology you people have. Put it simply, we want it. Not necessarily your technology, but more your way of deploying it. The way you think about it. The way you work with it. The thing you call a steam engine, for example. Steam technology is very common in the galaxy. But nothing like a multi-ton steam-powered logistics network. And the bridges, the trucks. The tech involved is ancient, but deployed in an ingeniously innovative way. We want that. Uplift. Encouragement. Improvement. I replied. I see. Well, actually, I don't, but I'm not an engineer, so I don't have an opinion. So I'll tell you what. At the moment, our biggest hurdle is zombies and bandits. Zombies for obvious reasons and bandits because, well, criminals and assholes are a thing no matter what civilization you live in. You help us get rid of those, we will owe you one. Maybe the simple fact we no longer have to suffer the trauma of this whole nonsense and can actually start burying our dead with dignity again, instead of a magnum round to the skull, will make us calm the hell down for once, he replied coldly. It would appear we have a clear goal. Do you have any objections to us landing infantry or military units to help with this? We have an entire fleet of warships with an army waiting to be deployed. I asked. I have no opinion, but I strongly advise caution. I can't speak for the rest of the world. Hell, I can barely speak for my own town these days, so it's entirely up to your discretion how to approach this. The biggest issue at present are the undead, the plague, and our resource issues. If it weren't for the zombies, we would eventually figure it out ourselves and be back to being a national entity eventually. A few generations maybe, but yeah. Zeds are a threat we can't really fight at the moment. You get rid of them and the virus that causes them, we will probably take care of the rest by ourselves, eventually. He shrugged. It is our purpose to uplift. We need that, innovative spirit? As soon as possible. We are at a height of power as it is. If we get a human way of thinking, we could be that much closer to immortality, or even ascension. You think so far out of the box, so to speak, with the way you build things and solve problems, it actually lies outside the bounds of statistical reason. You are a literal quantum anomaly, and we want that on our side, I said plainly. You got all that shit just from a couple scans from bridges and trains? he asked. You said it yourself. Simple pattern recognition. 2 plus 2 equals 4. There is a lot you can learn about a species by looking at how they build things and what they build those things for, Decathus replied proudly. Fair enough. Now, the big question, this zombie virus, what even is it? How much do you know about it? Is it endemic? Do we have to deal with it permanently, or can you get rid of it properly? In short, zombies, what the hell? He asked. Scan data determined it started life out in a laboratory of some kind. From what we could tell, it was being used to figure out how a specific virus strain worked. Then it somehow escaped the lab and mutated itself around for a bit. 20 years worth of natural mutation, infecting, mixing, doing what viruses do. Then somehow it got back into a lab and someone tried finding a cure for it. Whatever they did went horribly wrong, and the virus mutated with such ferocity it created the strain you are currently dealing with. Decathus replied. We have found the original laboratory that it originated from. The place was a mess, but we recovered 6 people from it. We are still going through and recovering all the data from it, so we do not have any definitive answers as of yet. But we do in fact have a cure for it, at least a cure for a recent infection. As you saw, it is one of the most complicated pathogens we have ever discovered, and what it does is nothing short of unimaginable. But nothing we can't handle considering the pathogen that killed half a galaxy, I remarked proudly. So you had your version of the Black Death, huh? Nice. We might have common ground then, he remarked with a shrug. That shocked us awake. The Black Death? What? Relax. Let me see. Here it is. He got up and retrieved a book from a nearby desk. The Black Death, the worst pandemic in human history. Caused by a bacterium we believe to be Yersinia pestis. Wiped out almost half the known world back in its day. We have common ground if we have a similar history. Could be useful in diplomacy. Could shut up a few naysayers. He handed the book over to me. That's terrifying. What hell planet is this? I asked idly as Decathus started reading. Our hell planet. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, diseases, congenital defects, genetic failures, cancer, animals, bacteria, viruses. Name something that exists in the universe. We probably have the equivalent of it here, and it probably killed us at some point in history. Welcome to Earth, planet Dirt. Terra, Mother Gaia. The perfect combination of a sociopath with no boundaries and the patience of a 1,000-year-old saint. We take after her a lot, unfortunately. Like mother, like children, he simply said with a shrug. That is disturbing. From a personal perspective, that's goddamn horrible. From a scientific perspective, even the way grass grows would be something interesting to see, I remarked. Yeah, sure. Can we get on with this whole saving the world thing first, though? We're sort of on a timer here, he asked. Okay, yes, sorry. Do you have any ideas where we should start? Well, I'm not a tactician or a military advisor. I'm just a city planner. In dealing with that, I need my water supply repaired and treated. We get ours from an underground aquifer that used to go through a pump, but it was damaged a few hordes ago. We got water, but it's contaminated and has to be purified before consumption. Wastes time and fuel that could be better used for other purposes. The radio net is down as well. That radio tower up north got knocked out a month ago. I need that back up, and I can talk to other settlements again. We're good for food for now, but any help there would ease everyone's state of mind. He spoke as he pulled out a set of folders and paperwork from a drawer nearby. Consider it done. I will see what I can do. I need to file my official reports regardless and get a full response from the council. In dealing with the zombies, we have a drone ship that carries armed and armored variants of the very same drone I am using to talk. It can fly in the atmosphere quite easily. Can use them to clean up large hordes in open spaces. But I shall float that by the Grand Admiral first. He is the tactician here, not me. I will see what foods are compatible and make arrangements with our supply ships, I said, and made my way out of the building. I let the drone go on auto and do its thing. I went back to work coordinating supplies and taking scans of food and raw resources on the planet to see what we could do. Their food supply was pretty close to ours in terms of biology, the difference being that human food was massively diverse in comparison. Even a few strains of edible plants we never thought could even exist, but holy crap was there a lot of it. We noted, however, a lot of contamination with the zombie virus. It didn't take us long to notice a variance of transmission in this odd virus, including several strains of it. Blood, bile, saliva, and direct contact were all guaranteed infection. Water contamination was also prevalent, but it didn't seem to affect wildlife or even domestic beasts to any extent. Water could simply be boiled into steam or distilled to make it safe to consume. Now here is one of the most interesting facts we found about this virus. It has two strains, a water-blood-borne infection and an airborne variant, but they act independently. Every human on the planet is infected with it, but the strain is so mild it acts as little more than a common cold or simple flu, and the body's immune system adapts to it fast enough it doesn't actually harm them. Death will eventually lead to the infected human resurrecting due to the fact the immune system is no longer fighting back. The waterborne variant will cause violent gastrointestinal stress that can be treated to a certain capacity, with exceptions in children and elderly patients, but can be treated with care and certain medications. The blood-borne infection, however, is a guaranteed fatality. The infection from a zombie is deadly as the decomposition adds an extra layer of bacterial and viral infection, depending on the zombie host. Add to that trauma from physical damage and injury, possible sub-infections, and the original airborne infection acting as a catalyst, it created a quite vicious pathogen. While we piffled about finding a cure, capturing zombies, and acquiring blood samples, the supply unit got to work replanting fields and seeing if any of our own farming methods could be applied to human crops. After disinfecting and decontaminating, of course, we started running those tests. It wasn't nearly as hard as we thought. Earth plants and animals are goddamn easy to farm, even by our standards. The thing called the cow or bovine species was perfect for meat production, and as it turned out it was all too easy to clone its flesh and genome. For this fact alone we would be able to feed half the galaxy for centuries if we sent the samples to relevant parties. Corn, wheat, sugar cane. The humans had so much in terms of produce and food supply that simply was a boon in itself. Humans apparently had their own primitive but ingenious methods of selective breeding, genetic manipulation, and crop farming. We first solved the human food supply issue, of course, but when our supplier and farmers got their hands on the samples we sent and the gene code we sent, they wouldn't stop badgering us for more samples. Then one of our exploratory teams found a thing called a cookbook and transmitted the scanning data to the supply corps with the statement, "Can you do anything with this?" It started with a thing called lasagna. We deeply regret the discovery of this publication. We also changed protocol to make sure that no further publication of human literature escapes the planet without due process ever again. So much cheese. Oh God, the cheese. Anyway, the main fleet has arrived to start scans and set up permanent operations in the star system. The biohazard safety team has started the process of analyzing blood samples and captured infected zombies or infected humans who volunteered. I hear rumors the Emperor himself is coming, but I cannot substantiate anything. By the time the fleet started setting up a fuel refinery in one of the gas giants, the science team had a cure. The mayor, the guy who we spoke to on the ground, volunteered Reginald for a position as a liaison between us to ease transition. Reginald had set up his own quarters, showing us how his equipment and computer systems worked before settling into a rhythm now that proper communications had been restored to the planet. I sat in my captain's seat checking our documentation when he wandered into the bridge. "Hello, Captain." "Weird. Never thought I'd say that again," he said as he approached. I reached over and shook his outstretched hand, in a greeting I had now gotten strangely used to. "Hello, Reginald. Gotten used to the way things work around here yet? And have you received your vaccination shot?" I asked. "Yes, I got my vax shot." "You use larger needles than we do. It hurt more than it needed to," he replied as he rubbed his arm. "And yeah, I'm getting used to the feel of this place. Not used to the noise even after the fit hit the Sean. I'm used to quiet and birdsong with forestry, not actively overworked biolab. My planet has a comparatively longer day and night cycle, and we have evolved to work a lot longer than you do. You will get used to it eventually. If you don't, you could always use stimulants to help." "We do," I replied. "Stimulants? Like coffee?" he asked. "Or do you mean stims like LSD or meth?" I looked at him. I looked in that way when I suddenly realized something very interesting was about to happen. "What are those things?" "Coffee is a stimulant we drink to wake up in the morning and stay awake for hours. It contains a thing called caffeine," he replied, showing me a small sachet on his belt. "Here, let me do a thing." He returned to the canteen, boiling some water. He put 2 cups out, emptying the contents of those 2 odd sachets in the cups, then water. He then returned to me and handed me one of the cups. Out of politeness, I didn't ask questions as he handed one to me and started to gently sip his own. I drank a bit of it. Though hot, it was manageable. Bitter. Strong. "What is this?" I asked. Coffee, the fuel of the 21st century. Coffee beans grown from a plant, roasted, cooked, ground up, then filtered through water. Then drunk, cold, iced, or hot, usually with milk and sugar for most people. Me, I've gotten used to drinking it fresh, black as is, he replied. I failed to think and took a deeper sip of it. I suddenly felt more alert, stronger, more wary. But not fearful, not paranoid. Before I could think too much, I had finished the contents of the cup. I finally noticed protocol and gave Reginald's cup a scan. Caffeine. Coffee was a diluted form of the most dangerous drug on the black market, and these fucking humans were consuming it to survive long workdays. I frantically ran some scans on myself and felt, okay, caffeine in the form we know at least was one of the most toxic substances on the market and one of the most addictive narcotics you could imagine. With our variant of caffeine, on consumption, we would almost immediately start experiencing frantic activity, followed by a severe heart attack. Space hippies in the universe use it as a recreational spiritual experience, usually before death, and these humans drank it when they were tired. I scanned it properly. It wasn't caffeine in the way we knew it. It was still addictive, but some core components were very different from ours. It tasted nice, though, and I was still alive, so, well, found something else to search for later, I guess. That was tasty, I replied, setting the cup down. Cool. Glad you like it. There's more in a warehouse on 7th Street. Coffee shop. Could probably find more there. Anyway, back to work. I'm supposed to be on the ham barking at people, so call me if you need me. Reggie shrugged and walked away. I called the Grand Admiral. His face quickly appeared on my screen. Yes? Admiral, it would appear human biology is significantly more adept than expected. They have this substance called coffee. If this is what I think it is, get the Rathani ambassador involved. We may have found an answer for their little problem with the riddles, I said, my voice strangely calm as I looked into my empty coffee cup.